Chapter 41 Hawkeye Mihawk. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The three of them ducked into a random tavern. One of them, sporting a burgundy hat, white shirt, and a striking red coat, carried a massive sword on his back, practically as tall as he was. This was none other than Hawkeye Mihawk, and he just walked into the same tavern. Chen Fan glanced at Mihawk, who looked to be around his age, and a thought popped into his head. What if he could snag the future greatest swordsman in the world for his crew? Deciding to take a shot, Chen Fan knew the odds were slim, but figured, what the heck. You two stay put, Chen Fan told his companions before heading over to Mihawk. Hey there, I'm Chen Fan, he said, sliding into the seat opposite him. At the mention of the name, Mihawk looked up. He knew the name, Thunder God Chen Fan. Most pirates in the New World did. Thunder God Chen Fan. What do you want? Mihawk asked, his hawk-like eyes piercingly fixed on Chen Fan. I want you on my crew. I'm offering you the deputy captain spot, if you're interested. Chen Fan laid out his offer. I just want to be the world's greatest swordsman. I have no interest in joining your crew. Mihawk flatly refused. Chen Fan wasn't discouraged. He knew landing Mihawk wouldn't be easy. Name your price, or a condition. Anything to get you on board, Chen Fan countered. He'd love to just beat Mihawk into submission, but this wasn't the time or place for a brawl. If you can defeat me with a sword, I'll be your crewmate, Mihawk stated, his expression unchanging. Chen Fan knew that wasn't happening. There was no way Mihawk's current swordsmanship hadn't already reached the level of a master swordsman. Besides, Chen Fan didn't even know how to properly hold a sword. While Chen Fan was racking his brain for a way to recruit Mihawk, an angry voice cut through the air. Thunder God Chen Fan. Chen Fan looked up at the sound of his name and saw a short, weaselly-looking guy. Next to this character stood a stunning woman, tall and with legs for days. Behind them were several Navy soldiers. It was the patrolling Brown Dolphin and Guion. Well, look who it is. It's the weasel himself, Chen Fan said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. Brown Dolphin, especially with a goddess present, couldn't let that slide. Chen Fan, you dare show your face here? You've got a death wish. Think I can't take you down right now? Brown Dolphin snarled. Really? You gonna try? Besides, you're a has-been. What makes you think you can take me? You little shrimp, Chen Fan retorted, lounging back in his chair with an arrogant smirk. That was the last straw. Brown Dolphin drew his two guns, ready for action. Guillaume grabbed his arm. Don't. Remember the Admiral's orders. Our priority is Roger. Don't start trouble. Hearing his goddess, Brown Dolphin had to swallow his anger. He glared at Chen Fan, a look that could kill. Hawkeye Mihawk, trust me, you'll be on my ship one day. I always get what I want. Let's go, Chen Fan said with a grin, signaling Lafitte and Monet. See you around, shorty. I'll be waiting, Chen Fan said to Brown Dolphin as he turned to leave. Brown Dolphin was about to explode. He clenched his fists, desperate to fight Chen Fan, but he forced himself to hold back. Watching Chen Fan leave, Guillaume couldn't help but be curious about the man. How had he escaped Impel Down, the legendary prison? How had he gotten so strong so quickly? And most of all, he was so young. Only 17, according to the reports, and already pulling off incredible feats. It was terrifying to think what this pirate could become if he was allowed to grow stronger. There might be another Emperor of the Sea soon. Chen Fan led Monet and Lafitte out of the tavern and hustled them down the street. He could get away with taunting Brown Dolphin so brazenly because Brown Dolphin couldn't beat him. Even with Guillaume backing him up, they couldn't take him down quickly enough. And the resulting chaos was the main reason Brown Dolphin wouldn't make a move. If Garp had been there, Chen Fan wouldn't have dared to be so cocky. Garp would have punched his lights out. With Chen Fan's current strength, he wouldn't even last a few seconds against a prime Garp. Big brother, who was that guy you were trying to recruit? Is he really strong? Monet asked, curiosity piqued. Pretty strong. I'd say he's at least a master swordsman right now, Chen Fan replied, knowing he was underselling it. The guy was destined to be the world's greatest. Master Swordsman. What's that? Lafitte, do you know? Monet, being from the West Blue, was still learning about the world and had only recently learned what hockey was, so she was unfamiliar with the term. A Master Swordsman is a rank, basically the highest level of swordsmanship on the sea. Legend says there's a level beyond it, but that's just a myth, Lafitte explained. Wow, that's powerful. No wonder you wanted him on the crew, Monet said, realizing the quiet young man was a big deal. They stopped chatting and Chen Fan and the others found a place to stay, waiting for the events of tomorrow. Even though he was staying at a hotel, Chen Fan continued with his basic physical training. He started doing push-ups, but the more he did, the more frustrated he became. No matter how many push-ups he did, he didn't feel tired. That was bad news. It meant regular push-ups weren't improving his strength anymore. He needed to up the difficulty. He used to do push-ups and other exercises with a massive boulder on his back, but now that weight was barely challenging and soon it would become useless. Chapter 42 The Beginning of the Age of Discovery. You are listening at novelfull.audio. You can't train properly with distractions looming. Chen Fan paused his training, wondering how to push himself harder. Then it hit him. The Navy had these things called gravity bracelets, which could crank up the gravity by tons. Gotta find a way to swipe one of those from a base. Chen Fan thought. He vanished from the hotel, becoming a streak of lightning headed for the sky. Up there, Chen Fan crackled with destructive energy. If I can't do hardcore physical training at the hotel, I'll focus on developing my devil fruit powers. Waves of electric blue enveloped him. He was trying to blend his old blood rage ability with his fruit power, looking for a combo to boost his strength. Easier said than done, of course. As the night gave way, Chen Fan finally wrapped up his power development and returned to the hotel. Just as the sun peeked over the horizon, missing a night's sleep barely fazed him anymore. He took a quick shower and headed down to breakfast. Monet and Lafitte joined him. The table was piled with over a dozen dishes for the three of them, not because Chen Fan was being wasteful, but because he could seriously put away some food. Those dishes vanished in about 10 minutes, thanks to Chen Fan's rapid-fire chomping. Good thing Lafitte and Monet weren't huge eaters, or they would have needed more grub. A gentle warmth spread through Chen Fan's body, flowing from his blood to his organs, subtly enhancing his physique. It wasn't much, but over time, it would add up in a big way. In a few years, maybe a decade, Chen Fan could have a body that could rival Kaido's. After breakfast, Chen Fan and the others left the hotel, making their way to the square in Logue Town. Today, at 11 a.m., they were set to publicly execute the Pirate King. When Chen Fan and his crew arrived, the Logue Town square was already packed, mostly with pirates. There were even a few big-name pirates with bounties over 1 billion berries hanging around. It was the kind of scene you might never see again. Despite the crowd, nobody was causing trouble. That's because sitting on the raised platform in the center of the square were two heavy hitters. One had short hair, wore a black suit, and was munching on donuts. The other wore frog-eye glasses and a long beard, with a seagull perched on his hat. It was none other than the Navy hero Garp, and the Fleet Admiral Sengoku. Just their presence alone was enough to keep the pirates in line. The only ones who could really challenge them were the top-tier pirates, guys like Phoenix Marco, Hawkeye Mihawk, and red-haired Shanks, who were still too green to be a match for the Navy's elite. The three vice admirals standing next to them, while younger than Garp and Sengoku, were not to be underestimated. They had earned the nickname the Navy's Three Monsters for a reason. Sakazuki, Kizaru, and Akiji, the Navy's natural-born monsters, were the nightmares of most pirates in the New World. Some even whispered that as they grew stronger, the Navy would enter a new era, ruled by the three admirals. But today wasn't about them. It was about Gold, Roger, the Pirate King. Under the blazing sun, the crowd had been waiting for an hour, growing anxious, but not restless. All eyes were locked on the platform, including Chen Fan's. Clang, clang, star. The sound of sea stone chains echoed from the platform, as two vice admirals escorted a figure forward. Though silent and restrained, the man still radiated power, a terrible sense of dominance. The three vice admirals looked at him, their gazes meeting Roger's as the Pirate King turned, their eyes locking. Even in that brief moment, they felt like they were facing a mountain. They were clearly out of their depth when it came to the Pirate King. Then, Pirate King Roger glanced down at the crowd. What a glorious era, too bad I won't be around to see it. Sengoku's face was grim. Garp just stared at the ground. He couldn't understand why Roger had turned himself in. As rivals for over a decade, Garp and Roger had become something like friends. Roger was led to the execution platform. Two executioners stood ready, aware that they were about to kill a legend. Roger remained calm, showing no fear. His peace in the face of death was unnerving. Sengoku stood and began recounting the Pirate King's long list of crimes. Roger, the Pirate King, is a monster of depravity, guilty of. The speech dragged on for 10 minutes, but mostly to a crowd of pirates, who weren't exactly interested in a Navy propaganda session. Most of them were bored, some openly yawning, but nobody dared to get out of line. After all, Sengoku and Garp were there, along with a ton of officers and warships. That kind of firepower could wipe out a whole pirate fleet without breaking a sweat. Begin the execution, Sengoku announced, finally wrapping up his speech. Garp stood as well. He was ready to stop anyone from trying to rescue Roger. He didn't want Roger to die like this, but as a Marine, he had a duty to uphold. The pirates in the crowd craned their necks, eager to see what would happen next, but it seemed like they were going to be disappointed. None of Roger's crew showed up. Then, someone in the crowd, an average-looking guy with a purple haircut, shouted, "Hey, Pirate King. Where'd you hide all your treasure? Is it really in the Grand Line? Did you find the legendary treasure, the One Piece?" Roger looked up and smiled. Countless transponder snails focused on him. The Navy was broadcasting Roger's execution worldwide. "You want my treasure? You want it? I'll give it to you. Go find it. I left it all in that place." Pirate King Roger said, laughing, his words echoing across the square and around the world. Chapter 43 The Phoenix Marco. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hearing that, Buddha's warring state snapped, "Do it. Kill him now," the executioners immediately brought their blades down. And so, the Pirate King, Roger, met his end, his life igniting a new era. The pirates in the crowd went wild. The Navy's attempts to maintain order were futile as everyone scrambled, desperate to find Roger's treasure. Some mourned the death of the Pirate King. Red-haired Shanks, still a teenager, clutched a straw hat, tears streaming down his face. His fellow crew members restrained him, fearing he'd act rashly. The execution sparked chaos. If pirates could act like this with the Navy present, what would happen elsewhere? On one island, a shopkeeper abandoned his stall, eager to set sail. People resorted to robbery to buy ships and pursue their dreams. Some abandoned their families, neglecting wives and children, all for the allure of treasure. The seas descended into utter turmoil. Pirates in the New World, driven by ambition, sought to claim the Pirate King's legacy. Across the four seas, naval outposts faced pirate attacks. In his office, Marshal Cyborg was overwhelmed. He hadn't anticipated such chaos just as he was about to be promoted. Most naval branches were unable to withstand the onslaught, forced to request reinforcements from headquarters. The world was thrown into complete disorder, and so, the great age of pirates began. Rogue Town, amid the chaos, Chen Fan watched, uninterested in joining the frenzy. "Let's go," he said to Lafitte and Monet. They slipped away, attracting the attention of several pirates who trailed after them. Hero Garp and Buddha's warring states knew that once the initial excitement wore off, most pirates wouldn't be foolish enough to cause trouble right there. Minutes later, Chen Fan and his companions were back on the Thor. "Captain, where to next?" Lafitte asked. "A new era has dawned. The world will descend into chaos, and the power dynamics of the sea will be reshaped. We're heading to the new world. Our goal? To become emperors of the new world." Chen Fan grinned, gazing at the vast ocean. "I'm with you, Captain." Lafitte tipped his hat, a gentleman ready to unleash havoc upon the seas, fulfilling his ambition. "Me too, big brother." Monet, too young to fully grasp the significance of the new era, simply knew she enjoyed life on the ship. It was far more exciting than her previous existence. The sea breeze blew as the Thor sped across the east blue. An hour later, under the bright sun, Chen Fan was on deck, relentlessly training. He performed push-ups while balancing a massive boulder on his back, sweat poured down his face, but he didn't stop. 99.98, 99.99, 10,000. Finally, his arms burning, Chen Fan ceased his exercise, he stood up, rested briefly, then devoured 5 plates of food. As he replenished his energy, the green energy coursed through his veins, repairing his muscles and alleviating his fatigue. Soon, the swelling and pain in his arms subsided. Lafitte and Monet watched, accustomed to the scene. Under Chen Fan's influence, they had also begun to intensify their own training. Monet had mastered the first form of the Navy's 6 styles, greatly improving her physical abilities and doubling her strength. Just as Chen Fan prepared to resume training, he stopped, spotting a giant sky-blue bird soaring above the Thor. He recognized it instantly. "Wait here," he told his crew. "I'll be right back." With a flash of lightning, Chen Fan vanished, a streak of thunder zipped across the sky. Lafitte figured his captain was chasing the giant bird, but why would the captain pursue Phoenix Marco? "Lafitte, what do you think Big Brother's up to?" Monet asked. "I have no idea. Let's just wait." Lafitte shrugged. Meanwhile, in the sky, Phoenix Marco noticed he was being followed. He stopped flapping his wings, hovered in the air, and turned to face the approaching figure. Recognizing the person, he asked, "Thunder God Chen Fan, what's with the chase?" "I want to spar with you, Phoenix Marco." Chen Fan had no intention of recruiting Marco. He knew that even if he defeated the Phoenix, Marco wouldn't betray Whitebeard. Instead, he sought a fierce battle to break through the 3rd stage of his observation hockey, or at least accelerate his progress. Interesting, Phoenix Marco's body ignited with blue flames. "Thunder God Chen Fan, you want to spar with me? Are you that confident?" Chen Fan stared at Marco, still in his 20s, and said, "Does the Whitebeard pirates dare accept my challenge?" Hearing this, Marco couldn't refuse in the name of his crew. "All right, Phoenix Marco, commander of the Whitebeard pirates, accepted your challenge." The next second, blue flames erupted from his body, and Marco entered his half-beast form. Flame wings spread wide, and blue flames danced around him. He had heard tales of Chen Fan, and he wasn't about to underestimate the younger man before him. Thunder crackled as Chen Fan locked eyes with Marco, showing no hint of arrogance. He knew that while Phoenix Marco hadn't yet reached his peak, he was certainly on par with, if not superior to, elite vice admirals. That was why Chen Fan came alone. If he couldn't win, he knew that with his lightning speed, Phoenix Marco couldn't hope to catch him. Chapter 44 Half-Beast Form. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hockey, Thunder Fist. Without hesitation, Chen Fan focused the crackling thunder that surged through his body into his fist. He vanished, moving with ghostly speed, and slammed the power-packed fist at Marco. Hockey, blue flame. Unfazed by the thunderous assault, Marco concentrated his own blue flames into his fist, meeting Chen Fan's blow with a sonic boom. Boom! Their fists collided like dragons clashing. Immortal flames and destructive thunder, 2 raw powers, met head-on. Both figures blurred into streaks of light, hammering at each other. It was a brutal brawl, a knockdown, drag-out fight with skin-splitting impacts. From the get-go, neither held anything back. Chen Fan swung his right leg, imbued with thunder and advanced hockey, at Marco like a falling skyscraper. Marco, still showing no fear, blocked the kick with his flame-engulfed arms. Then, with a mighty upward heave, he sent Chen Fan flying. Chen Fan quickly spun in the air, regaining his balance. Instantly, Marco's right hand transformed into a claw wreathed in flames, lunging for Chen Fan. Expressionless, Chen Fan covered his fist in destructive thunder, throwing a counterpunch with full force. Blood sprayed. A gash several inches deep opened on Chen Fan's chest, licked by lingering blue flames. Marco, on the other hand, was blasted back by Chen Fan's punch, staggering back dozens of yards before catching himself. A patch on his body was charred black. Thunder God Chen Fan, it's no wonder the Marines call you a monster. Your talent and power are truly terrifying. Marco regarded Chen Fan with newfound intensity. Is that so? Then you'll have to try harder, or I'll beat you into the ground. Chen Fan smirked, fueled by the challenge of such a worthy opponent. Kill me. Don't be ridiculous. I'm the captain of the Whitebeard Pirates. Marco's eyes hardened. Instantly, blue flames erupted around him, leaving a trail of light as he shot toward Chen Fan. Chen Fan vanished in response, unleashing a storm of thunder that lit up the sky. Bang, bang. They traded blows without pause, fire and thunder exploding in a continuous roar above the clouds. Drops of blood fell into the sea, causing ripples. Miles away, Lafitte sensed the commotion and glanced in the direction of the battle. However, he didn't move to interfere. He knew Chen Fan must have had his reasons for leaving him and Monet behind. Time trickled by. Half an hour later, after another bone-jarring collision, the fiery and thunderous figures both recoiled. Who? Chen Fan gasped for breath, bloodied and battered, but the blue thunder still crackled around him. Marco, the Phoenix, didn't look any better. Wounds scarred his body, sweat beaded on his brow, and his breathing was ragged. Normally, his Phoenix powers would instantly heal most injuries, but right now, he bore several savage wounds that refused to close. Clearly, he was hurting. I'll give you this, you're strong. But not strong enough to beat me. Hawkeye, blue flame giant bird, the blue flames engulfing Marco surged, threatening to consume everything. Raising his hands, he conjured a colossal bird of blue fire, dozens of feet across. Caw! With a piercing cry, the fiery avian hurtled toward Chen Fan, radiating intense heat. The weak stay weak. The strong get stronger. I'm winning this. Hawkeye, million-volt thunder dragon. Chen Fan unleashed a torrent of destructive thunder. As he lifted his hands, storm clouds gathered overhead. Ziz. A colossal blue dragon materialized from the clouds, claws extended, promising annihilation. Boom! Dragon and bird collided in a cataclysmic explosion. The sky warped, the sea churned, and shockwaves ripped outward in all directions. The force of the blast sent Chen Fan and Marco tumbling backward. After a few seconds, the earth-shaking explosion subsided. Chen Fan and Marco, thrown hundreds of yards apart, righted themselves. Their bodies were crisscrossed with cuts, oozing blood. They locked eyes. Arcs of electricity crackled. Wisps of fire burned. After such a long battle, they knew their strength was nearly equal. To continue fighting would be a gamble, a contest of attrition with no guaranteed victor. Neither wanted a draw, but neither was willing to be the first to back down, so, they stood locked in place, locked in a stalemate, neither making a move. Finally, after a tense minute, Marco spoke. Next time we meet, you'll be my punching bag. With those parting words, Marco turned and flew away. He had been dispatched by Whitebeard to fulfill a mission in the East China Sea, and couldn't spend more time fighting Chen Fan. Is that so? I hope I don't leave you too far behind by the time we meet again. Chen Fan smirked. He didn't pursue. He knew his chances of actually killing Marco at this point were slim. More importantly, this battle was a proving ground, a step on the path to unlocking the third level of Hawkeye. Chen Fan could feel the barrier weakening, and he was confident that he could shatter it with a few more days of training. Then, with a flash of lightning, Chen Fan disappeared, headed for the Thor. 2 minutes later, destructive thunder descended on the ship. Lafitte and Monet didn't flinch at the sight of the blue electricity. They knew their captain had returned. As the thunder faded, Chen Fan materialized before them, covered in blood. Monet gasped. She hadn't realized Chen Fan had been in a fight. Captain, what happened? Where did you go? You're hurt so badly, Monet asked anxiously. Chapter 45 The Supreme Sharp Sword, Black Sword Knight. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Nothing much. Just got into a fight because my hands were itchy. Chen Fan replied, then plopped down and started scarfing something down. Almost instantly, a wave of warmth spread through his body, soothing his injuries. The cuts and scrapes were already scabbing over. Watching him, Monet thought, am I just dead weight? Why can't I ever help out? She clenched her fists, resolving to train harder so she could be useful next time. After months on the ship, Monet had started to feel like she belonged and even felt a little dependent on Chen Fan. Meanwhile, Marco, the Phoenix, was soaring through the sky, blood trickling from his mouth. The memory of that devastating thunder filled him with fear. He hadn't just retreated because of his mission from his old man, he was losing the fight, even though they seemed evenly matched. Marco knew the thunder was already making him feel a little numb. It might not seem like much at first, but that paralysis could be fatal in a real life or death battle. Thunder God Chen Fan, that guy's a monster. Gotta be extra careful around him. Marco's face was etched with fear as he transformed into a streak of blue light and vanished into the sky. 2 months later, a pirate ship flying a thunder flag was sailing through the new world. Chen Fan was training on deck, like always. After 2 months, his observation hockey had finally leveled up to the 3rd stage. Now, he was easily on par with an elite vice admiral. Monet had also been hitting the training hard, pushing herself from 8 hours a day to 10, with Chen Fan guiding her. She'd even mastered half of the Navy's 6 powers. Lafitte was the same way, squeezing in training whenever he could. They all knew they had to get stronger, or they'd just be holding Chen Fan back. So, what's the plan, Captain? Lafitte had followed Chen Fan to stir things up. Let's take out a vice admiral and really mess with the Navy. First, we need to find an island, hit up the underground black market, and buy intel on Vice Admiral Henry David. Chen Fan's face hardened. Got it, Captain. Lafitte didn't need to know why this particular vice admiral was the target. The Thor sped ahead. Chen Fan was about to resume his training when he stopped, noticing a guy sitting on a chair on a tiny raft with a single canvas sail. Who would dare to sail the ocean like that? Chen Fan saw the guy was wearing a burgundy hat and carrying a famous sword, and a smile crept across his face. Looks like I'm destined to keep running into Hawkeye Mihawk. What are the odds? With a flash of lightning, he teleported directly onto Hawkeye's raft. Lafitte and Monet, back on the Thor, had also spotted Hawkeye. What's he up to, Lafitte? Monet asked, watching Chen Fan disappear. Looks like the captain's trying to recruit a swordsman. Problem. Hawkeye Mihawk recognized Chen Fan, of course. Join my crew. Chen Fan repeated his offer. Beat me with your sword, or give me a reason worth listening to. Hawkeye didn't mind joining a pirate crew, but he was used to being a loner. Join my crew, and you'll see the final destination. You'll meet tons of powerful swordsmen, and you can fight them until you become the world's greatest. Chen Fan realized he didn't have much to offer Hawkeye. Why should I trust you? That's not really a condition. Mihawk's eyes, sharp as a hawk's, locked onto Chen Fan. Fair enough. But I know someone who might have reached a level above a great swordsman. Join my crew, and I'll tell you who it is. Chen Fan knew that someone like Hawkeye wasn't easily impressed by titles or power. He was driven by the sword. He wanted to reach the highest level. The mention of a level above great swordsman made Hawkeye's eyes light up. After a few seconds of hesitation, he said, Tell me who this swordsman is, and I'll join your crew, but I have one condition. If you want me to join, you have to beat me. I can't have a captain who's weaker than me. Mihawk stared at Chen Fan. Deal. As for the person above the great swordsman, it's... Chen Fan agreed and told Hawkeye about the master swordsman among the 5 elders. Of course, Chen Fan had no idea if that guy had really reached a realm above that of a great swordsman, but he was willing to bet the old man's swordsmanship wasn't anything to scoff at, so he wasn't totally lying. Hearing the name and position, Hawkeye Mihawk didn't doubt him much. He wasn't stupid enough to challenge one of the 5 elders right now. He knew he'd only just reached the level of a great swordsman. He still had a way to go before reaching the next level. Alright, let's fight. If you beat me, I'm on board. Hawkeye Mihawk drew the legendary Supreme Grade Blade, one of the 12 Supreme Grade swords, the Black Sword Yoru. Looking at the dark and mysterious blade, Chen Fan said, Is that one of the Supreme Grade swords? Chen Fan's body crackled with destructive electricity. Instantly, 2 powerful forces collided on the sea, terrifying thunder and soaring sword intent. Chapter 46, Go All Out in Thor Mode. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Up on Thor, Monet and Lafitte couldn't help but overhear the conversation. Lafitte, think Big Bro can take down this Hawkeye Mihawk. Monet hadn't heard of him, so she turned to Lafitte. Hawkeye Mihawk is a beast. They say he's got the best shot at becoming the world's greatest swordsman, but our captain? He's a straight-up monster among monsters. Lafitte grinned. It was a big reason why he signed on with Chen Fan. Meanwhile, Chen Fan and Hawkeye Mihawk went at it in the air. Hawkeye was using a move similar to the Navy's moonwalk. Hockey infused. Thunder Fist. In a flash of lightning, Chen Fan vanished, crackling with blue energy. He unleashed a devastating thunder punch on Hawkeye, crazy fast and packing serious heat. Hawkeye's face was stone, his grip tight on the black sword, which was infused with high-level armament hockey. He swung the sword, and a multi-meter-long arc of green energy tore through the air, barreling toward Chen Fan. Clang, star. The thunder punch slammed into the green sword beam like two dragons colliding, and the clash blew seawater everywhere. The standoff lasted only a few seconds before Chen Fan's insane thunder fist shattered the green energy, but then Hawkeye was on him, wielding the black sword. They went blow for blow. The air screamed with the sound of thunder fists meeting the ultimate blade. The ocean thrashed and foamed. They were throwing everything they had, no holds barred, fighting tooth and nail, swords, hands, feet, everything was a weapon. Blood splattered, and they just got faster. Below, Monet could only make out a green blur and a blue blur colliding. Even Lafitte struggled to track the afterimages of their fight. 15 minutes ticked by. Chen Fan's right leg, as dark as a telephone pole, aimed a kick at Mihawk's head. Hawkeye, still cold as ice, blocked the kick with the black sword, which he'd coated in ink-black hockey. Then, Chen Fan's right fist, crackling with lightning, shot for Hawkeye's chest. Hawkeye didn't even flinch. He didn't try to dodge. He covered his left fist in the same dark hockey and threw a punch of his own. They traded blows to the chest. The force sent them both staggering backward. You're seriously strong. No wonder they say you'll be the world's greatest swordsman. Chen Fan felt Hawkeye's power and wanted him on his crew more than ever. Having the future best swordsman in the world would be a massive help with his plans. Thunder God Chen Fan, the monster title isn't just hype. Hawkeye was surprised at Chen Fan's power. He hadn't seen anyone his age who could trade blows like this. But I'm still gonna win. Just give in and become my combat squad captain. Hockey infused. Million volt. Thunder Dragon. Chen Fan grinned, and then the air crackled with apocalyptic energy as he raised his hands. Dark clouds swirled overhead, thunder rumbled. A huge, blue thunder dragon lunged down, claws extended, loaded with destructive potential. It was headed straight for Hawkeye. You're too sure of yourself. One sword in the sky. Hawkeye gripped the black blade knight with both hands, encasing it in tangible hockey. His sword intense sword, piercing the sky, wrapping the black blade knight in raw power. He swung the blade, and a dark green energy arc, now over 10 meters, smashed through the air. Boom. Star, the ultimate dark green sword beam and the terrifying thunder dragon collided, creating an earth-shattering explosion. The world seemed to change color, and sea pillars erupted from the water. After a few seconds, the green beam sliced through the thunder dragon. It lost some power, but it still hurtled towards Chen Fan. Chen Fan's eyes widened. He hadn't expected Hawkeye to be this strong. With no time to dodge, he could only brace himself, crossing his arms in front of him. The weakened green energy slammed into Chen Fan. Agony and the sensation of tearing ripped through him. Blood sprayed, and he dropped like a stone. Lafitte and Monet were stunned. It was the first time they'd seen their captain get roughed up this bad. What do we do? We have to save him. He's a devil fruit user. He can't fall into the sea. Monet was freaking out, but she hadn't mastered the moonwalk yet. Lafitte started to move, then froze. Chen Fan's body was crackling with blue energy, and he looked stronger than before. Chen Fan stopped inches from the water, his body suddenly still. The destructive energy exploded outward. *ZZZZZZZZZ. Star, the crackling energy started to coalesce into little thunder snakes. He's really something. No wonder he's gonna be the world's greatest swordsman, but I'm not going down. Chen Fan's eyes hardened. Thunder rippled outwards, filling the sea for hundreds of meters, then focused on him again. Hawkeye's eyebrows furrowed. He hadn't expected Chen Fan to be so tough, to withstand that blow, and his power was still climbing. What was his trump card? Hawkeye wasn't about to let Chen Fan play it. He swung the black sword, and a green energy blast sped towards Chen Fan. Chen Fan's face didn't change. Break! A thunder spear materialized in his right hand, pulsing with power. He hurled it forward. Chapter 47 The End. Hawkeye Mihawk comes aboard. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Bang, bang, instantly, the thunder spear slammed into the green sword energy, exploding in a cloud of smoke. Both attacks vanished into thin air. At the same time, the thunder crackling around Chen Fan intensified. A towering figure of pure lightning, easily 30 feet tall, materialized around him, radiating power like a thunder god. Now the real fight begins. Chen Fan grinned, unfazed by the two nasty sword wounds on his arms. Lafitte and Monet stared at the colossal thunder god in astonishment. When had their captain developed this move? The sheer size and the surrounding electricity were awe-inspiring. Up above, Hawkeye Mihawk remained silent, but his grim expression and the white-knuckle grip on his black sword spoke volumes. Come on! Chen Fan vanished in a burst of speed, throwing a punch. The thunder god mirrored his action, its fist a devastating weapon aimed squarely at Hawkeye Mihawk. Unfazed, Hawkeye Mihawk met the blow head-on, swinging the ink-black sword knight, crackling with sword intent. Clang! The thunderous fist collided with the blade, sending shockwaves through the air, showering sparks, and unleashing furious sword energy. The force of the impact sent Hawkeye Mihawk flying backward. Seeing this, Chen Fan exploded forward again. The thunder god unleashed a relentless barrage of attacks. Hawkeye Mihawk could only parry with his black blade, fighting a desperate rearguard action. Up above, blue lightning clashed with dark green energy. The thunder raged, while the sword energy obliterated everything around it. Boom! As time wore on, the brutal fight raged on, leaving both fighters bloodied. Chen Fan's power seemed to grant him the upper hand, but his body was covered in sword wounds. Hawkeye Mihawk was in far worse shape, his upper body charred and bloodied. You're strong, but I'm stronger, Chen Fan declared, confidence in his voice. He swung a thunderous fist at Hawkeye Mihawk's head. Hawkeye Mihawk remained impassive, but his black sword blazed with powerful haki, his sword intent reaching for the sky. Bang, bang, the thunderous fist and the black sword collided once more. Destruction reigned as shockwaves churned the sea into towering spouts. Both combatants were thrown backward. Chen Fan managed to stop after a few dozen feet. Hawkeye Mihawk tumbled through the air, finally regaining his footing nearly 100 feet away. They faced each other, one side wreathed in the thunder of destruction, the other radiating invincible sword intent. Two colossal forces locked in a silent battle of wills. Time to end this. Prepare to join my crew. Million Volt. Thunder Dragon. Chen Fan radiated destructive energy, as if he would tear the world apart. He raised his hands, and dark clouds gathered overhead, thunder rumbling. Zzzzzzzzz. A gigantic thunder dragon, hundreds of feet long, materialized, its claws crackling with terrifying power. The dragon surged forward to devour Hawkeye Mihawk in a wave of raw power. We'll see about that, Hawkeye Mihawk said, unfazed, as the attack bore down on him. This was what would make him the world's greatest swordsman. One sword style, ascending sky. Hawkeye Mihawk gripped knight, his sword intent flaring. All his energy focused into a single point. He swung the black blade, unleashing a beam of green sword energy stretching across the sky. Boom! The thunder dragon and the green blade collided in an apocalyptic explosion. The ocean heaved, and waves crashed. The scene mirrored the first collision, except this time, the enhanced thunder dragon didn't break apart. Instead, its claws tore the green blade into fragments. The thunder dragon dove toward Hawkeye Mihawk. For the first time, a flicker of apprehension crossed Hawkeye Mihawk's face. He braced knight before him, knowing he'd lost, but as the thunder dragon was about to strike. Arg! Chen Fan roared, unleashing the full force of his thunder powers. As he lifted his hands, the monstrous thunder dragon twisted in mid-air, turning its gaze toward the sky. Then, boom! The dragon imploded in a final, shattering explosion. Who? Chen Fan panted, exhausted. Reversing the Thunder Dragon's course had clearly taken its toll. Hawkeye Mihawk knew he had lost, fair and square. Aboard the Thor, Monet looked confused. Lafitte, why did Big Brother suddenly change the dragon's direction? Simple. Our captain wants to recruit Hawkeye Mihawk, not just defeat him. Winning is enough. Lafitte smiled. Oh, Monet said, enlightened. In the air, Hawkeye Mihawk looked at Chen Fan and said, I lost. I said I'd join your crew if I lost. I stand by my word. Hawkeye Mihawk landed on the Thor and sat on the deck to rest, exhausted from the fight. Chen Fan, who usually had a stoic expression, couldn't help but grin. With a flash of lightning, he returned to the Thor. Chapter 48 Ripping Bars. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Monet, get some grub ready. Chen Fan said to Monet, who was standing beside him. Okay, Big Brother. Monet darted off toward the cabin. Lafitte handed a medical kit to Hawkeye Mihawk. Mihawk, accepting the kit, applied some medicine and bandaged his wound. Chen Fan did the same, though he only wrapped the worst sword wounds on his arms. A few minutes later, Monet emerged with a bunch of food, mostly instant stuff or things that were easy to cook. Let's eat. Chen Fan said to Hawkeye Mihawk with a smile. They'd agreed to be on the same side, so Mihawk didn't object. He sat down and started eating. The four of them were seated at a table and began to chow down. Chen Fan devoured his food like always, a warm energy flowing from his body, healing his injuries. Soon, his wound stopped bleeding and even started to scab over. Hawkeye Mihawk's expression flickered slightly. It was rare for anything to faze him. Surprised? Our captain's got monster healing abilities. Lafitte said, grinning. Ha! It was the first time Hawkeye Mihawk had ever seen someone with such insane recovery. He wondered if Chen Fan was from some special race, maybe a giant or something. After everyone had finished eating, with the sea breeze in their faces, the Thor continued toward the New World. 5 days later, Shampoo Islands, Island 13, a cluster of giant mangroves, a mid-sized pirate ship docked on the shore, a thunder flag waving proudly. Chen Fan and the others headed straight for the island. It was crawling with pirates, civilians, and marines, a real chaotic mess. Chen Fan had picked this place for his first stop to get some intel on Henry David. He vaguely remembered there was a bar on Island 13 run by a woman named Xia Qi. She had a pretty good relationship with Rayleigh the Dark King. Chen Fan wasn't looking to meet Rayleigh this time, though. He wasn't strong enough to take him on at his peak. Even if they weren't enemies, something could still go wrong. Walking down the street, Chen Fan and the others saw slaves locked in cages, some even being led around on leashes like dogs by nobles. It was a stark reminder of the dark side of this world. Lafitte and Hawkeye Mihawk remained unbothered. They were used to it and knew they couldn't change anything on their own. Chen Fan's face remained cold. He knew what the world was like, and that's why he needed to get stronger. Only by becoming the strongest could he control his own destiny and the destinies of others. Of the four, only Monet looked upset, but even she knew this kind of thing happened all over the world. 10 minutes later, Chen Fan and the others arrived at a tavern. The sign read, Xia Qi's Ripoff Bar. Here we are. Let's go in. Chen Fan said to the others. No one questioned him. They knew he didn't like it. Inside, the tavern was packed with tables, mostly filled with pirates and bandits. Clearly, this wasn't just any pub. The proprietress was a woman with mushroom-style hair and sharp eyes. Thunder God Chen Fan, Hawkeye Mihawk. What brings you two to my bar? Xia Qi recognized Chen Fan instantly, her eyes lingering on him for a moment. She'd expected Chen Fan to look older, based on the reports, but he really looked to be barely 20. Hard to believe someone so young could have accomplished so much. Looking for someone. Chen Fan got straight to the point, not wanting to waste time. Alright, come with me. Xia Qi said, heading towards the back. You couldn't exactly buy intel at the bar in a crowded pub. There was no privacy. Chen Fan and the others followed Xia Qi to the back kitchen. Who are you looking for? Xia Qi asked. She welcomed any business. Vice Admiral Henry David of the Navy headquarters. I need his whereabouts and any information you have on him. Chen Fan said. Got it. Vice Admiral of the Navy, eh? I know where he is. That'll be 50 million berries. As a professional info broker, Xia Qi didn't ask why he wanted the information. Chen Fan pulled out a large chunk of gold and tossed it to Xia Qi without hesitation. Keep the change. Just give me the info. Looks like you're as generous as you are strong, Chen Fan. Xia Qi grabbed the gold, complimented him, then disappeared into another room. She opened a file, skimmed through it, pulled out a sheet of paper, and returned to the kitchen. Should we go check on her? She might be making a run for it. Monet said, a little worried. No need. Chen Fan, with his lightning speed, wasn't worried about Xia Qi escaping. Besides, she'd been running this tavern for years, she must have some reputation. Just as Chen Fan said that, Xia Qi walked back in. Henry David was last seen near Little Garden a day ago. His warship is headed back to the Navy headquarters. If you leave now and intercept him along that route, you should be able to find him. Here's his photo and some intel on him, by the way. Xia Qi told Chen Fan where to find Henry David. All right. Chen Fan took the photo and the information, first glancing at the photo. It showed a tall, middle-aged man wearing a navy cap. Chapter 49 Unplanned Accident. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chen Fan set down the photo and picked up the intel. Henry David, Vice Admiral of Naval Headquarters. Observation Hockey, Level 3. Armament Hockey, Level 3. Strong physical fighter. User of the Tiger-type Zoan Devil Fruit. The report detailed David's abilities, followed by his life story. Alright, hope this info isn't bunk, or there'll be hell to pay. Chen Fan pocketed the file, giving Xia Qi a steely look. Of course not. I've been running this place a long time. Xia Qi replied with a smile. Good. With that, Chen Fan turned and headed out. Lafitte and the others trailed their captain as he left the bar. Hawkeye Mihawks actually joined Thunder God Chen Fan's crew. Wow. If those two really take off, this crew could become a top-tier pirate gang. Xia Qi stared after them, clearly impressed. 2 days later, the sun beat down, the Thor cut through the waves. Chen Fan and his crew had been crisscrossing the area between Little Garden and Navy HQ for days. Chen Fan, using his elemental fruit, could fly high above to scout. His grind paid off, and he finally found him. With a crackle of thunder, Chen Fan landed back on the Thor. Southeast. Chen Fan ordered Lafitte. Aye, Captain. Lafitte spun the wheel, knowing his captain must have spotted the Navy Vice Admiral. Minutes later, seagulls wheeled overhead in the salty breeze, and then, a massive warship hove into view. On the naval vessel, a lookout spotted the Thor. The pirate flag, a thunderbolt, was a dead giveaway. He knew it was the Thor, and rushed to the deck. Henry David was relaxing in a chair, enjoying a meal. Annoyed by the sailor's frantic approach, he snapped. Soldier, what's wrong with you? Didn't I tell you not to lose your cool? Sir, we've spotted the Thor, right behind us. Hearing the report, Henry David, who had preached calm, shot to his feet. Telescope. Now. David barked at his adjutant. Grabbing the telescope, he peered toward the stern. Seeing the thunderbolt flag, his face lit up. Looks like I'm in luck. Running into the Thor here. David grinned, radiating confidence. It wasn't that he thought he could beat Chen Fan. Usually, he'd call for backup, but today he had company on his warship, a fellow Lieutenant General from headquarters. Wake up Lieutenant General Kuzan and tell him we've got Thunder God Chen Fan. Henry David told the reporting soldier. He could already taste the glory. Yes, sir. The soldier hurried below to rouse the resting Kuzan. With the deck clear, Henry David barked at the helmsman. Full speed ahead. Close on that pirate ship. Back on the Thor, Chen Fan saw Henry David charging at full speed, and frowned. Did the guy really think he could take him alone, without waiting for backup? Chen Fan had planned to play it cool, look like he was trying to escape, and make Henry David chase him, but David was already coming in hot. Chen Fan had no idea the situation would spiral out of control. He glanced at David, then told Lafitte to head right at him. Unless there was a full-blown admiral on that warship, Chen Fan was sure he and Hawkeye Mihawk could take down David. Even with another lieutenant general in the mix, the gap between the ships narrowed rapidly. On the warship, Kuzan, roused from his rest, was not happy. Even the normally easygoing Kuzan was pissed. With the great pirate era in full swing and chaos exploding across the globe, the Navy was stretched thin, pirate numbers were skyrocketing, and the Navy was scrambling to keep up. Lieutenant General Kuzan, we've spotted Thunder God Chen Fan. That the sailor felt the chill and blurted out the news, his voice trembling. Hearing the name Thunder God Chen Fan, the lazy Kuzan was instantly alert. He knew the pirate's talent was off the charts. If he was allowed to grow unchecked, a new emperor would soon be terrorizing the new world. He headed for the deck. When Kuzan stepped outside, he saw the pirate ship less than 100 yards away. On board, Chen Fan's expression soured at the sight of Kuzan. My luck sucks. But Kuzan alone can't stop me from killing Henry David. Chen Fan breathed a sigh of relief that he'd recruited Hawkeye Mihawk. Facing two headquarters lieutenant generals on his own, he would have been forced to retreat. The two ships rapidly closed the distance. Everyone on the warship could now clearly see the figure standing behind Chen Fan. Henry David visibly paled. He'd been laser-focused on Chen Fan, ignoring the rest of the crew. He thought Chen Fan's crew was trash, but Hawkeye Mihawk was standing on Chen Fan's ship. Hawkeye Mihawk wasn't yet the world's greatest swordsman, but he carried a billion-belly bounty. The man was a monster. Lieutenant General Kuzan, should we still engage? Henry David asked Kuzan. Even though he outranked Kuzan, he knew the man beside him was a force of nature. There were even rumors swirling in Navy headquarters that Kuzan was a shoo-in for the next generation of admirals. Chapter 50 Hawkeye Mihawk vs. Kuzan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Okay, message the other admirals and anyone ranked above them to come lend a hand. We can't even think about retreating, not with Chen Fan breathing down our necks. Kuzan stared at Chen Fan, all his usual chill demeanor gone. They locked eyes, the air thick with tension, like thunder about to break and ice about to shatter. But Chen Fan wasn't focused on Kuzan this time. He knew picking a fight with Kuzan wouldn't get him anywhere fast. Even if he somehow managed to win, if he couldn't take him down quickly, the Navy would be all over them, turning the whole thing around. You hang back until we're in it, then get out of here. Chen Fan turned to Mihawk. Mihawk, keep Kuzan busy for 20 minutes. I'll deal with Henry David ASAP. He was confident Mihawk could keep Kuzan occupied with his skill. Fine. Mihawk, eyes like a hawk, fixed his gaze on Kuzan. Then, with a crackle of thunder, Chen Fan rose into the air, crackling with blue electricity. He pointed a finger at Henry and David, a sneer on his face. The Navy trying to catch me? You clowns couldn't catch a cold. The Navy soldiers bristled at the insult, but Kuzan remained calm. Go. Even if he was calm, he wasn't going to miss a chance to take Chen Fan down. He might have a chance to capture Chen Fan. He knew it. Ice exploded, and Kuzan turned into his elemental form, vanishing in a flash. Seeing Kuzan move, Henry David used moonwalk to keep up. In the air, Kuzan, now encased in ice, conjured two ice spears, aiming to strike Chen Fan. Chen Fan stood his ground, a picture of cool confidence. Just as Kuzan was closing in, a dark figure stepped in, blocking the way. The supreme grade sword, Black Blade Yoru, crashed against the ice spear. Ice shattered, but Kuzan wasn't surprised to see Mihawk intervene. It would have been stranger if Hawkeye Mihawk didn't jump into the fray, considering he was on Chen Fan's ship. As the two clashed, Chen Fan vanished in a thunderclap. His fist crackled with energy as he lunged at Henry David. Henry David was caught off guard. Why was this guy coming after him? Shouldn't he be fighting Hawkeye Mihawk? Hockey. Point gun. There was no time to hesitate. Henry David's fingers turned into claws, coated with advanced armament hockey, and he lashed out. Fists and claws met in a burst of thunder, the force of which drove Henry David back a couple of steps. Kuzan finally figured out Chen Fan's play. He was going to take out Henry David. Eyes on me, buddy. Mihawk unleashed a surge of sword intent, shrouding the night in darkness. He wielded the supreme sword, his attacks a relentless barrage. Kuzan, who'd been about to assist, had to focus on defending himself, encasing himself in ice and conjuring another ice spear to block Mihawk's furious attacks. He knew Mihawk wasn't going to let him off that easily. He needed to shake this guy off fast, otherwise, Henry David wouldn't be able to withstand Chen Fan's assault. Without hesitating, he unleashed a wave of cold, dropping the temperature and intensifying his attacks against Mihawk. In an instant, the tables turned, and he pushed Mihawk back on the defensive. Meanwhile, Chen Fan knew the only thing that mattered was taking down his opponent faster than they could take him down. Thor mode. Chen Fan erupted with lightning, the sky lit up with a blue light show. It looked pretty terrifying. Zzzzzzzzzzz. The thunder rumbled, and Henry David was momentarily stunned. Did he know this guy? Why was he giving him the stink eye, acting like he wanted to dice him into a million pieces? The lightning crackled, flowing into Chen Fan's body, and a towering figure formed, a giant of blue thunder at least 30 feet tall. The Navy soldiers below were scared stiff. They'd never seen anything like it. What is that? Is that even human? What's that massive thunder giant? Looks terrifying. Does Lieutenant General Henry David have a chance against that thing? That they felt the oppressive power radiating from the thunder god. Hey, should we go after them? The two guys on that ship are running. A Navy sergeant pointed to the Thor, which was heading towards the rear. Lieutenant General David, should we pursue them? Henry David was about to charge when he heard the shout. Do I even need to tell you? All pirates are to be arrested. Henry David roared. Alright, full speed ahead after the Thor. The naval warship's oars churned and followed the Thor at full speed. I dare you. Chen Fan pointed upwards, and a bolt of lightning as thick as an arm struck the sea right in front of the warship. A geyser erupted. The Navy soldiers glared angrily at Chen Fan. Chen Fan, you've gone too far. Henry David was furious, and his power surged. If you chase me, I'll kill you all first. You hear me? Not even your Lieutenant General Henry David, or Lieutenant General Kuzan can stop me, but that's Lieutenant General Henry David. Chen Fan grinned at Henry David. Henry David gritted his teeth and clenched his fists, knowing Chen Fan was right, as much as he hated to admit it.